Welcome back to Audible Archives. I'm Rob, your host. And tonight, we step into a mystery that begins with something far too simple, a cheap flat in a fashionable London street. When a newlywed couple boasts of their extraordinary bargain, Hercule Poirot senses danger beneath the surface. Behind the laughter and wallpaper lies a secret of international intrigue, and only Poirot's little grey cells can expose it. This is The Adventure of the Cheap Flat by Agatha Christie. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because sometimes the most innocent bargains hide the darkest prices. So far, in the cases I recorded, Poirot's investigations always began with a central fact, murder, theft, or some pressing mystery, and, through a careful, methodical process of logical deduction, progressed steadily to the final, triumphant revelation. But in the events I'm about to recount, a remarkable chain of circumstances carried him from seemingly trivial incidents, those at first caught his attention, to dark, sinister developments that led to the resolution of a most extraordinary case. I had been spending the evening with an old friend, Gerald Parker. Around half a dozen others were present, besides my host and myself. Inevitably, the conversation turned, sooner or later it always did, whenever Parker was involved, to the subject of house. Hunting in London, houses and flats were Parker's passion. Since the end of the war, he had moved through at least half a dozen different flats and maisonettes. No sooner had he settled in one place than he would stumble upon a new find, and, without hesitation, depart bag and baggage for the next. His moves were almost always made with modest profit in mind. Parker had a shrewd business sense, but it was a thrill to hunt that truly drove him, not the money. We listened to him for some time, with the respectful attention of novices to an expert. Then it was our turn, and a lively, cheerful babble of voices filled the room. Finally, the conversation settled on Mrs. Robinson, a delightful young bride, visiting with her husband. I had never met them before. Robinson was only a recent acquaintance of Parker's. Talking of flats, she said, "Have you heard of our piece of luck, Mr. Parker? We got a flat, at last, in Montague Mansions." "Well," said Parker, "I've always said there are plenty of flats, at a price." "Yes, but this isn't at a price. It's dirt cheap, £80 a year. But Montague Mansions is just off Knightsbridge, isn't it? Big, handsome building. Or are you talking of a poor relation of the same name stuck in the slum somewhere?" "No, it's the Knightsbridge one. That's what makes it so wonderful." "Wonderful is the word. It's a blooming miracle. But there must be a catch somewhere. Paid premium, I suppose?" "No premium. No prem—" "Oh, hold my head, somebody," groaned Parker. "But we got to buy the furniture," Mrs. Robinson pressed on. "Ah." Parker sat up sharply. "I knew there was a catch. For £50, and it's beautifully furnished." "I give it up," Parker said, throwing up his hands. "The present occupants must be lunatics with a taste for philanthropy." Mrs. Robinson was looking a little troubled. A little pucker appeared between her dainty brows. "It is queer, isn't it? You don't think that the place is haunted?" "Never heard of a haunted flat," declared Parker decisively. "And, oh," Mrs. Robinson appeared far from convinced. "But there were several things about it all that struck me as, well, queer. For instance," I suggested. "Ah," said Parker, "our criminal expert's attention is aroused. Unburden yourself to him, Mrs. Robinson. Hastings is a great unraveler of mysteries." I laughed, embarrassed, but not wholly displeased with the role thrust upon me. "Oh, not really queer, Captain Hastings, but when we went to the agents Stosser and Paul, we hadn't tried them before, because they only have expensive Mayfair flats, but we thought at any rate it would do no harm. Everything they offered us was $400 and $500 a year, or else huge premiums, and then, just as we were going to mention that they had a flat at 80, but that they doubted if it would be any good our going there, because it had been on their book some time, and they had sent so many people to see it that it was almost sure to be taken, snapped up, as the clerk put it. Only people were so tiresome and not letting them know, and then they went on sending, and people get annoyed at being sent to a place that had, perhaps, been let some time." Mrs. Robinson paused for some much-needed breath, and then continued. "We thanked him and said that we quite understood it would probably be no good, but that we should like an order all the same. just in case. And we went there straight away in a taxi, for, after all, you never know. Number 4 was on the second floor, and just as we were waiting for the lift, Elsie Ferguson, she'd a friend of mine, Captain Hastings, and they're looking for flat 2, came hurrying down the stairs. "Ahead of you for once, my dear," she said. "But it's no good. It's already let." That seemed to finish it, but, well, as John said, the place was very cheap. We could afford to get more, and perhaps if we offer premium, a horrid thing to do, of course, and I feel quite ashamed telling you, but you know what flat hunting is. I assured her that I fully understood how, in the scramble for house, room, the baser instincts often triumphed over nobler, and that the old adage of dog eat dog invariably held true. So we went up, and would you believe it? The flat wasn't let at all. The maid showed us around, then we met the mistress, and it was settled there and then, immediate possession and £50 of furniture. We signed the agreement the very next day, and we move in tomorrow. Mrs. Robinson paused, beaming triumphantly. "And what about Mrs. Ferguson?" asked Parker. "Let's have your deductions, Hastings." "Obvious, my dear Watson," I quoted lightly. "She wanted the wrong flat." "Oh, Captain Hastings, how clever of you!" cried Mrs. Robinson admiringly. "I rather wish Poirot had been there. Sometimes I have the feeling that he rather underestimates my capabilities." The whole thing was rather amusing, and I propounded the thing as a mock problem to Poirot on the following morning. He seemed interested, and questioned me rather narrowly as to the rents of flats in various localities. "A curious story," he said thoughtfully. "Excuse me, Hastings, I must take a short stroll." About an hour later, he returned, his eyes alight with a peculiar excitement. He set his stick on the table and carefully brushed the nap of his hat before speaking. "It is fortunate, mon ami, that we have no pressing matters at the moment. We may devote ourselves entirely to the present investigation." "What investigation are you referring to?" I asked, incredulous. "The remarkable bargain your friend Mrs. Robinson obtained for her new flat." "Poirot, you cannot be serious." "I am most serious. Figure to yourself, my friend, that the real rent of those flats is £350. I have just ascertained that from the landlord's agents. And yet this particular flat is being sublet at £80. Why? There must be something wrong with it. Perhaps it is haunted, as Mrs. Robinson suggested." Poirot shook his head in a dissatisfied manner. "Then again, how curious it is that a friend tells her the flat is let, and when she goes up, behold, it is not so at all. But surely you agree with me that the other woman must have gone to a wrong flat. That is the only possible solution. You may or may not be right on that point, Hastings. The fact still remains that numerous other applicants were sent to see it, and yet, in spite of its remarkable cheapness, it was still in the market when Mrs. Robinson arrived. That shows that there must be something wrong about it. Mrs. Robinson did not seem to notice anything amiss. Very curious, is it not? Did she impress you as being a truthful woman, Hastings? She was a delightful creature. If I admit, since she leaves you incapable of answering my question, describe her to me then. Well, she's tall and fair. Her hair is a truly lovely shade of auburn. Ah, you've always had a weakness for auburn hair, Poirot murmured. But continue. Blue eyes, a very pleasant complexion, and, well, that's about all, I suppose, I admitted, feeling awkward. And her husband? Oh, he's quite a decent chap. Nothing remarkable. Dark or fair? I don't know. Somewhere in between, and just an ordinary sore face. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. Yes, there are hundreds of these average men, and, in any case, you bring more sympathy and attention to your description of women. Do you know anything about them? Does Parker know them well? They're just recent acquaintances, I believe. But surely, Poirot, you don't really think. Poirot raised his hand, cutting me off. Tout dousement, mon ami. Have I said that I think anything? All I say is, it is a curious story, and there is nothing to throw light upon it, except perhaps the lady's name, Hastings? Her name is Stella, I said stiffly, but I don't see. Poirot interrupted me with a tremendous chuckle. Something seemed to be amusing him vastly. And Stella means a star, does it not? Famous. What on earth? and stars give light. Voila! Calm yourself, Hastings. Do not put on that air of injured dignity. Come, we will go to Montague Mansions and make a few inquiries. I accompanied him, nothing loath. The mansions were a handsome block of buildings in excellent repair. A uniformed porter was sunning himself on the threshold, and it was to him that Poirot addressed himself. Pardon, but could you tell me if a Mr. and Mrs. Robinson reside here? The porter was a man of few words and apparently a sour or suspicious disposition. He hardly looked at us and grunted out, "Number 4, second floor." "I thank you. Can you tell me how long they've been here?" "6 months." I started forward in amazement, conscious as I did so of Poirot's malicious grin. "Impossible," I cried. "You must be making a mistake. 6 months. Are you sure? The lady I mean is tall and fair with reddish gold hair and—" "That's her," said the porter. "Came in the Michaelmas quarter. They did, just 6 months ago." He seemed to lose interest in us and drifted slowly back up the hall. I followed Poirot outside. "At Hastings?" my friend asked with a sly smile. "Are you still so certain that delightful women always tell the truth?" I said nothing. Poirot had steered his way into Brompton Road before I asked him what he was going to do and where we were going. "To the house agent's, Hastings. I have a great desire to have a flat in Montague Mansions. If I am not mistaken, several interesting things would take place there before long." We were fortunate in our quest. Number 8, on the 4th floor, was to be left furnished at 10 guineas a week. Poirot promptly took it for a month. Outside in the street again, he silenced my protests. "But I make money nowadays. Why should I not indulge a whim? By the way, Hastings, have you a revolver?" "Yes, somewhere," I answered, slightly thrilled. "Do you think that you will need it?" "It is quite possible. The idea pleases you, I see. Always a spectacular and romantic appeals to you." The following day saw us installed in our temporary home. The flat was pleasantly furnished. It occupied the same position in the building as that of the Robinsons, but was 2 floors higher. The day after our installation was a Sunday. In the afternoon, Poirot left the front door ajar and summoned me hastily as a bang reverberated from somewhere below. "Look over the banisters. Are those your friends? Make sure they do not see you." I leaned carefully over the staircase. "That's them," I whispered awkwardly. "Good. Wait a while." Half an hour later, a young woman appeared, dressed in bright and varied clothing. With a satisfied sigh, Poirot tiptoed back into flat. "C'est after the master and the mistress, the maid. The flat should now be empty. What are we going to do?" I asked, my voice a little tense. Poirot, undeterred, trotted briskly into the scullery, tugging vigorously at the rope of the coal lift. "We are about to descend after the method of the dustbins," he explained cheerfully. "No one will observe us. The Sunday concert, the Sunday afternoon out, and finally the Sunday nap after the Sunday dinner of England, le Rosbif, all these will distract attention from the doings of Hercule Poirot. Come, my friend." He stepped into the rough wooden contrivance, and I followed him gingerly. "Are we going to break into flat?" I asked dubiously. Poirot's answer was not too reassuring. "Not precisely today," he replied. Pulling on the rope, we descended slowly till we reached the 2nd floor. Poirot uttered an exclamation of satisfaction as he perceived that the wooden door into the scullery was open. "You observe? Never do they bolt these doors in the daytime. And yet anyone could mount or descend as we have done. At night, yes, though not always then, and it is against that we're going to make provision." He had drawn some tools from his pocket as he spoke, and at once set deftly to work, his object being to arrange the bolt so that it could be pulled back from the lift. The operation only occupied about 3 minutes. Then Poirot returned the tools to his pocket, and we reascended once more to our own domain. On Monday, Poirot was out all day, but when he returned in the evening, he flung himself into his chair with a sigh of satisfaction. "Hastings, shall I recount to you a little history? A story after your own heart, and which will remind you of your favorite cinema?" "Go ahead," I laughed. "I presume that it is a true story, not one of your efforts of fancy." "It is true enough. Inspector Japp of Scotland Yard will vouch for its accuracy, since it was through his kind offices that it came to my ears. Listen, Hastings. A little over 6 months ago, some important naval plans were stolen from an American government department. They revealed the positions of some of the most crucial harbor defenses and would be worth a considerable sum to any foreign government, that Japan, for example. Suspicion fell upon a young man named Luigi Valdarno, an Italian by birth, employed in a minor capacity in the department, who went missing at the same time as the papers. Whether Luigi Valdarno was a thief or not, he was found 2 days later on the east side in New York, shot dead. The papers were not on him. Now, for some time past, Luigi Valdarno had been seen in the company of a Miss Elsa Hart, a young concert singer, recently appeared, who lived with her brother in an apartment in Washington. Nothing was known of the antecedents of Miss Elsa Hart, and she disappeared suddenly around the time of Valdarno's death. There are reasons to believe that she was, in reality, an accomplished international spy, one who has carried out much nefarious work under various aliases. The American Secret Service, while doing their best to trace her, also kept a watchful eye on certain inconspicuous Japanese gentlemen living in Washington. They were fairly certain that, once Elsa Hart had covered her track sufficiently, she would approach these gentlemen. One of them departed suddenly for England a fortnight ago. On the face of it, therefore, it seems that Elsa Hart is now in England. Poirot paused, lowering his voice softly. The official description of Elsa Hart is height 5'7", eyes blue, hair auburn, fair complexion, nose straight, no special distinguishing marks. Mrs. Robinson, I gasped. Well, there is a chance of it anyhow, amended Poirot. Also, I learned that a swarthy man, a foreigner of some kind, was inquiring about the occupants of number 4 only this morning. Therefore, mon ami, I fear that you must forswear your beauty sleep tonight and join me in my all-night vigil in flat below, armed with that excellent revolver of yours. Bien entendu. Rather, I cried with enthusiasm. When shall we start? The hour of midnight is both solemn and suitable, I fancy. Nothing is likely to occur before then. At 12 o'clock precisely, we crept cautiously into the coal lift and lowered ourselves to the second floor. Under Poirot's manipulation, the wooden door quickly swung inwards, and we climbed into flat. From the scullery we passed into the kitchen, where we established ourselves comfortably in 2 chairs with the door into the hall ajar. Now we have but to wait, said Poirot contentedly, closing his eyes. To me, the waiting seemed endless. I was terrified of falling asleep, just and it felt as though I had been there for 8 hours. And, as I discovered afterward, it had actually been only 1 hour and 20 minutes. A faint scratching sound reached my ears. Poirot's hand touched mine. I rose, and together we moved carefully toward the hall. The noise was coming from there. Poirot leaned close, placed his lips to my ear. Outside the front door, they are cutting out the lock. When I give the word, not before, fall upon from behind and hold him fast. Be careful, he will have a knife. Presently, there was a rending sound, and a small circle light appeared through the door. It was extinguished almost immediately, and then the door slowly opened. Poirot and I pressed ourselves flat against the wall. I could hear a man's breathing as he passed by. Then he suddenly flashed his torch, and at that moment Poirot hissed in my ear, "Alice!" We sprang together. Poirot with a quick movement enveloped the intruder's head with a light woolen scarf whilst I pinioned his arms. The whole affair was quick and noiseless. I twisted a dagger from his hand, and as Poirot brought down the scarf for his eyes, whilst keeping it wound tightly round his mouth, I jerked at my revolver where he could see it and understand that resistance was useless. As he ceased to struggle, Poirot put his mouth close to his ear and began to whisper rapidly. After a minute, the man nodded. Then, enjoining silence with a movement of the hand, Poirot led the way out of the flat and down the stairs. Our captive followed, and I brought up the rear with the revolver. When we were out in the street, Poirot turned to me. "There is a taxi waiting just round the corner. Give me the revolver. We shall not need it now. But if this fellow tries to escape?" Poirot smiled. "He will not." I returned in a minute with the waiting taxi. The scarf had been unwound from the stranger's face, and I gave a start of surprise. "He's not a Jap," I ejaculated in a whisper. "Poirot, observation was always your strong point, Hastings. Nothing escapes you." "No, the man is not a Jap. He is an Italian." We got into the taxi, and Poirot gave the driver an address in Street John's Wood. By now, I was completely in the dark. I did not dare ask Poirot where we were going in front of our captive, and I struggled in vain to glean any hint of what was about to happen. We alighted at the door of a small house, standing back from the road. A returning wayfarer, slightly drunk, was lurching along the pavement, and almost collided with Poirot, who said something sharply to him which I did not catch. All three of us went up the steps of the house. Poirot rang the bell and motioned us to stand a little aside. There was no answer, and he rang again, and then seized a knocker which he plied for some minutes vigorously. A light appeared suddenly above the fanlight, and the door was opened cautiously a little way. "What the devil do you want?" a man's voice demanded harshly. "I want the doctor. My wife is taken ill." "There's no doctor here." The man prepared to shut the door, but Poirot thrust his foot in adroitly. He became suddenly a perfect caricature of an infuriated Frenchman. "What you say? There's no doctor? I will have the law of you. You must come. I will stay here and ring and knock all night." "My dear sir," the door opened again. The man, clad in a dressing gown and slippers, stepped forward, casting an uneasy glance around as he tried to pacify Poirot. "I will call the police," he added, his voice trembling. Poirot prepared to descend the steps. "No, don't do that for heaven's sake." The man dashed after him. With a neat push, Poirot sent him staggering down the steps. In another minute, all three of us were inside the door, and it was pushed to and bolted. "Quick, in here." Poirot led the way into the nearest room, switching on the light as he did so. "And you behind a curtain." "Si, signor," said the Italian, and slid rapidly behind the full folds of rose-colored velvet which draped the embrasure of the window. Not a minute too soon. Just as he disappeared from view, a woman rushed into the room. She was tall with reddish hair and held a scarlet kimono round her slender form. "Where's my husband?" she cried with a quick, frightened glance. "Who are you?" Poirot stepped forward with a bow. "It is to be hoped your husband will not suffer from a chill." I observed that he had slippers on his feet and that his dressing gown was a warm one. "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" "It is true that none of us have the pleasure of your acquaintance, madam. It is especially to be regretted, as one of our number has come specially from New York in order to meet you." The curtains parted, and the Italian stepped out. To my horror, I observed that he was brandishing my revolver, which Poirot must doubtless have put down through inadvertence in a cab. The woman let out a piercing scream and turned to flee, but Poirot stood firmly in front of a closed door. "Let me by," she shrieked. "He will murder me." "Who was it that croaked Luigi Valdarno?" demanded the Italian, his voice hoarse, brandishing the weapon and sweeping across each of us. We dare not move. "My God, Poirot, this is awful. What shall we do?" I cried. "You will oblige me by refraining from talking so much, Hastings. I can assure you that our friend will not shoot until I give the word." "You sure o' dat, said the Italian, leering unpleasantly. It was more than I was, but the woman turned to Poirot like a flash. "What is it you want?" Poirot bowed. "I do not think it is necessary to insult Miss Elsa Hart's intelligence by telling her." With a swift movement, the woman snatched up a big black velvet cat, which served as a cover for the telephone. "They are stitched in the lining of that." "Clever," murmured Poirot appreciatively. He stood aside from the door. "Good evening, madam. I will detain your friend from New York whilst you make your getaway." "What a fool!" roared the big Italian, and raising the revolver he fired point blank at the woman's retreating figure just as I flung myself upon him. But the weapon merely clicked harmlessly, and Poirot's voice rose in mild reproof. "Never will you trust your old friend, Hastings. I do not care for my friends to carry loaded pistols about with them, and never would I permit a mere acquaintance to do so. No, no, mon ami." Poirot addressed the Italian, who swore hoarsely in a tone of mild reproof. "See now what I have done for you. I have saved you from being hanged. And do not think that our beautiful lady will escape. No, no, The house is watched, front and back. Straight into the arms of the police they will go. Is that not a beautiful and consoling thought? Yes, you may leave the room now. But be careful, very careful. He is gone. And my friend, Hastings, looks at me with eyes full of reproach. But it was all so simple. From the first, it was clear that out of several hundred, probably applicants for number 4, Montague Mansions, only the Robinsons were considered suitable. Why? What was it that singled them out from the rest? At practically a glance. Their appearance? Possibly, but it was not so unusual. Their name, then, but there's nothing unusual about the name Robinson, I cried. It's quite a common name. Sapristi, but exactly. That was the point. Elsa Hart and her husband or brother, or whatever he really is, come from New York and take a flat in the name of Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. Suddenly they learn that one of these secret societies, the Mafia or the Camorra, to which doubtless Luigi Valdano belonged, is on their track. What do? They hit on a scheme of transparent simplicity. Evidently they knew that their pursuers were not personally acquainted with either of them. What then could be simpler? They offer the flat at an absurdly low rental. Of the thousands of young couples in London looking for flats, there cannot fail to be several Robinsons. It is only a matter of waiting. If you will look at the name of Robinson in the telephone directory, you will realize that a fair-haired Mrs. Robinson was pretty sure to come along sooner or later. Then what will happen? The Avenger arrives. He knows the name, he knows the address. He strikes. All is over. Vengeance is satisfied, and Miss Elsa Hart has escaped by the skin of her teeth once more. By the way, Hastings, you must present me to the real Mrs. Robinson, that delightful and truthful creature. What will they think when they find their flat has been broken into? We must hurry back. That sound like Jap and his friends arriving. A mighty tattoo sounded on a knocker. How did you know this address? I asked as I followed Poirot out into the hall. Oh, of course. Yeah, the first Mrs. Robinson followed when she left the other flat. A la bonne heure, Hastings. At last, you use your gray cells. Now, for a little surprise for Jap. Softly, Poirot unbolted the door. He poked the cat's head around the edge and let out a sharp, piercing meow. The Scotland Yard inspector, standing outside with another man, jumped despite himself. Oh, it's only Monsieur Poirot at one of his little jokes, he exclaimed, as Poirot's head followed out the cat. Let us in, Monsieur. You have our friends safe and sound? Yes, we got the birds all right, but they hadn't got the goods with them. I see. So you come to search. Well, I am about to part with Hastings, but I should like to give you a little lecture upon the history and habits of the domestic cat. For the Lord's sake, have you gone completely balmy? The cat, declaimed Poirot, was worshipped by the ancient Egyptians. It is still regarded as a symbol of good luck if a black cat crosses your path. This cat crossed your path tonight, Jap. To speak of the interior of any animal or any person is not, I know, considered polite in England, but the interior of this cat is perfectly delicate. I refer to the lining. With a sudden grunt, the second man snatched the cat from Poirot's hand. Oh, I forgot to introduce you, said Jap. Mr. Poirot, this is Mr. Bird of the United States Secret Service. The American's trained fingers quickly found what he was looking for. He paused, speechless for a moment, then regained his composure. Pleased to meet you, said Mr. Bird. You've just heard The Adventure of the Cheap Flat by Agatha Christie, here on Audible Archives. What began as a curious conversation ended in espionage, deception, and the triumph of reason over disguise. I'm Rob, your host, and if Poirot's quiet brilliance left you guessing till the end, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because every mystery, no matter how ordinary it seems, holds a secret waiting to be uncovered.